Hello, lads, ladies, and everyone else. Simon here, and I am glad to welcome you back to Vibe Check. It's been a while since the last episode, because I think I recorded it like a month and a half ago and only published it like 3 weeks ago. I've been moving, got a new job, got a new apartment, so a lot of stuff has been happening, but I am back now, and today we're taking a look at yet another Chinese emulation handheld. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Alright, so today we're reviewing the RG35XX SP by Anbernic. This is a clamshell gaming handheld that really swept the market by storm in late 2023 and early 2024, but it still remains a very popular choice even to this day, surprisingly. It's been close to 2 years since this device first came out, and still it's selling like cupcakes, even though I would say there's probably better options on the market right now. So yeah, today we'll be taking a look at this console and deciding if it's still a worthwhile purchase in 2025, or is it something that is outclassed and outdated, as I've probably said in the thumbnail and the title and stuff. So yeah, a lot has changed in the market since this device first came out, but let's do a little bit of a history lesson and figure out why it got so popular when it did. Alright, but first, what exactly is it? So, as you might have noticed, and as I have already told you, it is a gaming console, but what I haven't told you is that this little guy plays not only Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color games, you know, as you would expect from something that looks like the Game Boy Advance SP to a suspicious level. It also plays a ton more stuff. You can play like original Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega games. You can even play PlayStation 1 games on it. So the performance on this guy is quite spectacular. You can even dabble into some Nintendo 64 and Dreamcast emulation, but this is a hit or miss affair, so I really wouldn't recommend it for that. But yeah, this is basically a tiny little guy that costs like €50, sometimes goes down to €40 on sale, and it can play all of your favorite games from like up to PlayStation 1. So it is quite a beast. Like, for something so cheap, there is a lot of power in here. But here on this channel, we are not really concerned with power. We are not really concerned with value, although of course those two aspects are undeniably important. But I just feel like there's a lot of YouTubers who cover those aspects in depth, and if you are interested in those aspects, I would direct you to watch videos from Retro Game Core. He's my favorite reviewer, but also like Aiden Walls, Monto Tech. There is a ton of good reviewers in this space. So what I'm doing to differentiate myself is just taking a look at the actual experience of using the device. So let's start here. The first impression you will have of the device is the unboxing. It comes in a fairly simple box. Inside, you pretty much get just the console and the charging cable. And now, most retailers, when you buy it, will include a screen protector as well. But since I bought it directly from Anbernic, I did not get such a thing. But the next thing you will feel as soon as you unbox the device is the build quality, which is surprisingly solid for something so inexpensive. Like, just to put it into perspective, this device is quite hefty, but it's like the right kind of heft. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes when you take something in your hand, like, I don't know, the iPhone 15 Pro, I take this phone in my hand, and even though it's not a great phone, it feels really premium because it's quite heavy. And same with the SP. I would say it's not heavy enough to where it will cause you any issues, like with comfort or fatigue when you play it for a longer period of time, because it's not heavy enough to actually fatigue you, but it's just heavy enough to give you that premium feeling. It's built of some really thick plastic. It's a really good quality material. And yeah, this device just feels really premium in the hand, and I love it for that. This is like one of the main reasons why I picked one up in the first place. And you know, since we're talking about build quality, let's mention the hinge, because this is something that clamshell manufacturers rarely get right. And I feel like Anbernic just makes some of the best hinges in the business. Like, even when compared to companies like Nintendo, I would say, yeah, Anbernic's hinges are definitely in the top tier, because, like, look at this. It opens really smoothly. Then it can stay in pretty much any position over like 60 degrees, which is quite impressive. And then when you open it fully to the 135-degree angle that you will actually be playing on, it stays in place really nicely. You can shake it and it will barely move. It has just enough give to where it won't break, won't put too much strain on the hinge itself, but it will never like close if you're just shaking it, which is lovely. And when you do want to close it, it's got magnets, which make for a really satisfying click. Actually, I will just shut the fuck up for a second and let you hear this marvelous sound. Ooh, ain't that satisfying? I think it is. For me, like, just opening and closing this console is so damn satisfying that it makes for a great fidget toy. This is like an unspoken benefit of having a great hinge, that you can just play around with it and open and close it and have a ton of fun. So that's what I'm doing. But yeah, when it comes to the build quality, the SP is fantastic. Like, for something so cheap, it really feels expensive. And when it comes to the first impression, you might also want to get some accessories for it. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really care about putting a screen protector in there because it's a clamshell, so whatever, you'll just close it when you want to protect the screen. But what I would recommend you getting, as we'll get to soon, you might see that mine is a little bit dinged up, because at first I was like, hey, it's a clamshell, so whatever, I don't need to protect it. But, you know, if you want to keep yours in a pristine condition, I would suggest you get a case, at least for the moments where you want to toss it in your bag instead of your pocket, which we'll get to by the end of the video. But yeah, Anbernic offers a really nice, like, faux leather case, which, honestly, this just exacerbates those premium feelings you get, because you get this, like, faux leather case with a magnet closing it and the Anbernic logo, and it looks fantastic. It looks so damn clean, and yeah, it's just perfectly suited for this console. It's tailor-made, so it fits it perfectly. So yeah, like, the first impressions when it comes to the build quality and like how this device is put together and just the overall vibes are nearly flawless. Like, actually, let's talk about another thing that contributes to the vibes, which is the design, because this console is strikingly pretty. Now, you know, you can't shake the impression that you have seen it somewhere, because it is a pretty faithful reproduction of the GameBoy Advance SP. Now, you might notice that it has 2 extra buttons compared to the Game Boy, which only had 2 face buttons. This has 4 because, you know, you can play a lot more than just Game Boy games on it. But yeah, aside from the buttons and the size, because this is quite a bit bigger than the SP. Now, I don't actually have the SP with me, but I do have the SP with me, just not the Nintendo one. This is the Anbernic 3.4 XX SP, which is the successor to the 3.5, and it is a carbon copy of the SP when it comes to the size. And you might notice that it is quite a bit smaller than the 3.5 SP. So yeah, like the aside from the size and the extra buttons, this really does feel like a carbon copy of the Game Boy Advance SP. And fun fact, I've never actually owned one. I grew up in Poland, and here Nintendo, like the first Nintendo console that they even officially sold in my country was the 3DS and the Wii U, and they only started selling them here in like 2015 or something. So it's been like less than a decade since you can just actually legally buy Nintendo stuff here. But I had family in Germany, and my dad imported me the original Game Boy Advance. Now this is actually the purple one, but as you might notice, the black is the front is quite black because it's been out in the sun at my parents' house for the last 5 years. So that's a little bit of a bummer, but hey, in general, this is the Game Boy Advance that I remember from my childhood. But my cousins from Germany did used to have the SP, and do you know what? Like, I always looked at this console and I was like, damn, it's so pretty. They had the silver one, but with like those tribal tattoos. Those were so gaudy, but back then they were cool as hell. And yeah, like when I saw this silver color, I had to pick it up. But it's not the only good color option that's available. In fact, when you go to Anbernic's website, let's go there right now, and let's check out the SP. Yeah, there's quite a few colors available. There's the silver, which I would consider to be the best one. It's really nice and shiny and looks just like the old thing. Lovely stuff. But then you've got gray, which looks more like a Game Boy classic. And honestly, it's a vibe. I love it. Yeah, I would definitely be happy owning that one too. Then you've got a whole range of transparent colors. Now, they go from quite mid, like the black one, which is like whatever. Then you've got the white one, which is a little better, but still not something I will actually pick up. But then you've got green, which I think it looks stunning. Actually, the pictures on Anbernic's site make it look quite ugly, but in person, it looks lovely. And so does the red. The red is probably my favorite color option out of the one red is probably my favorite color option, actually, out of the ones that I haven't picked. Then you've got blue transparent, which looks nice. Nothing special, but nice. But yeah, like I would say the green and the red and the gray are all like top tier color options. There is no bad option here, actually, I would say. But like the silver one is the clear winner, which is why I got it. So anyway, like when it comes to the build quality, visuals, aesthetics, and vibes, this thing is legitimately top tier. So why don't I recommend it? I'll tell you. But first, let's talk about a few more reasons why I do recommend it. And one of them has to do with the software options for this console. Because you've got quite a few options here. Like the stock Anbernic operating system, yeah, when I got it, it was awful. But apparently, when you update it, it's pretty good. Honestly, I've never gone through the trouble because there's just so many good custom firmware options for it. You've got MyooOS, which is actually what I used on most of my Anbernic handhelds. In fact, here is my girlfriend's 40XXV. And as you might see, it is booting into MyooOS right now. She's got like a lovely theme with cats, which is just adorable. But in general, MyooOS is a system that's very simple and easy to use. It's very clean and minimal. I love MyooOS. The reason why I'm using another system on the SP is because, well, Rocknix, even though it's not my favorite system, because that would be MyooOS, it's still pretty lovely. Like, you've got a much nicer interface with like tons of smooth animations, and it does really run smoothly on this device. It has a few quirks, but in general, I love it. It is a little bit slower because it's a bit of a heavier system than MyooOS, but still, the reason why I use it on the SP is because it supports sleep and wake on opening the hinge. Like when you are done with the console and want to put it aside for a few minutes, you just close it, right? And then when you open the lid, it's right back up to where you left off. It's so nice and easy and seamless. MyooOS actually used to have it. Then they removed it to add a deeper sleep mode that will conserve your battery, which is cool. Like if you don't mind pressing the power button whenever you open the device, I would say then yeah, MyooOS is probably still the best option. But on my clamshells, I always put Rocknix just for that lovely waking up on opening the lid. It really makes you feel like this is first party hardware, you know? Because my DSi was like way in the background there. My DSi has that too, and I have always adored it, that I can just, you know, close it, put it down, do something for 15 minutes, and when I'm ready to get back into the game, I just open it, and I'm playing again. That's lovely. Like, I absolutely adore this function. So, just the amount of software options that you can easily install on this console, lovely. So yeah, there is so much to love about the 35XX SP. There is, like, the build quality is fantastic. There is some really nice software options. There is some really cool first-party accessories. It's a really good value for the price when it comes to the performance. There is a ton of reasons to love this console, and you know, that's why I did when it first came out. That's why so many people did. That's why so many people bought it in the first place, right? It's like no coincidence that this device got so popular. It got so popular because it's so dang good, right? But still, I've had this device for like a year and a half now. And honestly, for like a year and 3 months, I haven't really picked it up because, well, let's talk about the reasons why. First of all, you might have seen this coming if you know anything about this console, and if you watched my previous video and know anything about my preferences. It has really clicky buttons. They are quite loud, which I don't usually mind. What I do mind is that they have very little travel to them and require a ton of effort to press down on. Now, let's put it into perspective. In my last video, when I reviewed the TrimUI Brick, I complained about the same thing when it comes to that device, right? Now, I can't do an apples to apples comparison right now, because I've actually modded mine, which I'll make a video about that quite soon as well. But even like when I did have them both stock, I would say like the Brick only required like 3/4 of the force needed to press a button on the SP. And still, I complained about the Brick, and yeah, the SP requires like 1/3 of the force more to even press down on one of the buttons. And you really feel it while playing the device, because like, yeah, of course, I'm quite sensitive to it, but I would say this one is so bad, like most people actually report the same thing. After like 15 minutes to half an hour of playing this device, I have to put it down because my fingers just get tired, because you just have to put a lot of effort into actually pressing those buttons. And, you know, it's not because of the ergonomics, because, you know, there is the 34XX SP, which is smaller, so it's less ergonomic, but it has softer buttons, and I can play this one for a long time without getting fatigued. No, it's just because of how hard the buttons are to press down on. Now, if you are in the market for this console, supposedly Anbernic fixed it in later batches. I'm saying supposedly because my unit was from their official distribution, and it was from one of the later batches, and it's still really terrible. Like, it's much worse than the 34XX SP. So yeah, I don't like playing on this console because the buttons are just fatiguing. Now, to be fair, they are nice and precise. You can really play a lot of games well on it, like whether you're playing a turn-based RPG or you're playing some, fighting game like Street Fighter or Tekken, or you're playing a precision platformer. You can precisely control your characters with the SP's buttons. I'm not talking at all about the quality of those buttons because it's good. I'm talking about the feel of them, which is really poor. And, back when it came out, it was the only clamshell in town, so you could forgive it. But nowadays, as we'll soon see, there is just better options. If it was just the controls that are bad, I would probably go through the effort of modding it, like I did with the TrimUI Brick, where I put the Nintendo 3DS membranes inside, and it made the D-pad like a lot softer. For the face buttons, I had to do some crackhead engineering because 3DS membranes wouldn't hold the button labels in place and they would just freely spin around. So I basically super glued the 3DS membrane below the original membrane. It was a disaster. But yeah, still, I went through all of this effort to mod the TrimUI Brick because the controls were the only thing that was bad about it, right? And with the SP, I feel no desire to do so because another thing that's really important to me is also quite poor, which is the screen. Like, the screen on this console, I'm not even talking about the fact that it's really low resolution, because you know what, it's 640 by 480 at 3.5 inches. Yeah, it is a bit grainy, but then again, the 40xxv has the same resolution on a 4-inch screen, so it's even more grainy, and I would still consider this to be a fantastic display. No, yeah, it sucks that you can't really scale Game Boy Advance games well on a console that looks like a bloody Game Boy Advance, but that's not even the issue I have with it, the display. The issue I have with it is that it's just really dull. The colors are just so muted and washed out. It really doesn't look good at all. Back in the day, it was fine because when it came to the alternatives, the same 3.5-inch panel was in pretty much any handheld on the market, right? But now, when you have so many better options, for example, let's go back to the TrimUI Brick because I feel like this is the most head-to-head competition that the SP has right now. This screen, I wouldn't even consider it to be a particularly fantastic screen. It's good. It has a really high resolution. It's 1024 by 768, which on a 3.2-inch screen just looks really crisp and sharp and makes for a ton of options to scale pretty much any game well to the display. It's lovely in that regard. But the colors they're fine. They're not mind-blowing. It's a standard cheapo LCD panel. And yet, compared to the SP, it looks like night and day difference. It's just so much more vibrant. And then you've got the 40xxv, which I've already mentioned. This is a lovely screen. It has the same resolution, but it's bigger. And yeah, especially when you put the brightness to 100%, the colors on the display really pop. It's lovely. And then you've got the direct upgrade, which is the Anbernic 34XX SP. Now, we'll talk about this guy in a few seconds, but it has a 3x2 aspect ratio display instead of the 4x3 in all of the other devices. But that's actually a good thing because 3x2 was the aspect ratio of Game Boy Advance games, so you can actually play Game Boy Advance games on here without any borders and they scale perfectly. And the quality of the display is so mind-blowingly fantastic. Like, I was genuinely shocked when I opened it, because like before I saw that it has some light bleed, which is, you know, only in LCD displays. I was like, did they like secretly put an OLED display in here? Because it's just so lovely. Like, the black levels are genuinely impressive for an LCD display, and the colors pop. In fact, I would say like this is probably a bit too saturated for my tastes, because, fun fact, I used to calibrate TVs for a living, so for me this is like a bit too saturated. But you know what, that's a good problem to have in comparison with not being saturated enough, because you can tune this shit down and you can't really tune this shit up without like destroying the image quality in other aspects. So yeah, when it comes to the display, it was fine when it came out, because that was all we had. But like in 2025, there's so many options that offer a much nicer display at a similar price point that I just, yeah, it starts to become a big fault of this device. And you know, still, there is one reason why you might want to get this device over the others, and notably the Brick and the 40xxv, because, well, they aren't clamshells. They won't close down, right? The whole thing about having a clamshell is that you can, you know, close it up and put it in your pocket and go out, right? Right? Except, well, you fucking can't, because this thing is just bloody big. Like, I will actually demonstrate it to you. Like, okay, sure, I wear skinny jeans, sue me. But when I put this thing in my pocket, do you notice the bulge that I get? It's really just too big to put in my pocket for a prolonged period of time. Like, sure, I can slip it in my pocket for like a few seconds where I just stopped playing a game and I need to do something. That's fine. But do you know what? I would actually say that the 40xxv, despite having a bigger screen, is more pocketable. Like, legit. Like, legit. Look. This is more comfortable than the clamshell, because it's just the 35xx SP is just so damn thick. Like, it's a thick boy. All right. Now that's the final nail in the coffin for me when it comes to this console, because, you know, like, sure, the nicest things about it are like the build quality and the fact that it's a clamshell with a really nice hinge. But the reason you want a clamshell is for it to be pocketable, and this really isn't. So yeah, there's just too many issues with this device for me to really recommend it in 2025. Now, still, it is a good console. I'm not saying it's bad. It was fantastic when it came out, because that was the best clamshell on the market. But now the market's changed. Now, we'll talk about other clamshell competitors. Actually, no, let's talk about other clamshells right now. So the first clamshell that kind of put a dent in this guy's reputation was the Miyoo Flip. I don't have the Miyoo Flip. It is on the way, but I don't have it quite yet. The Flip was also a 3.5-inch 4x3 display, but it had apparently much nicer buttons. Again, haven't tested it, so I can't say. It had analog sticks, and it was much smaller. It was the same size as the original GameBoy Advance SP. So really, if the Miyoo Flip was good, it would just kill this device, because there would be no reason to own it. Thankfully, for Anbernic, the hinge on the Miyoo was quite awful. Even though like all the reviewers preferred the Miyoo Flip over the 35xx SP, the hinge being bad and the device breaking made it hard for them to recommend. Alright, so the 35xx SP survived another round. Then we've got the Powkiddy V90s, and yeah, it's a terrible name, but whatever, let's roll with it. Then we got the V90s, and that thing took another approach. Instead of being, smaller and more premium with more features than the 35XX SP, that one instead was the same size, but actually much cheaper and still better in some regards. Now, again, I don't have the V90s with me, but knowing Powkiddy, I can say a few things for certain, and I've watched enough reviews where I feel like I can just summarize why I think like even the V90s is a better purchase than the SP, but I still understand why people would get this one. So basically, the V90s is a cheaper version of the SP, but it actually has much nicer membrane buttons. So it utilizes the fact that it's large to put like actual full-size controls in there, and apparently they are really nice. I've tested other Powkiddy membrane buttons, and they are lovely. So I can believe when people say that those buttons are lovely too, right? So you've got basically the same thing, but with actually good buttons. So why wouldn't you buy the V90s? Well, there's a few reasons. It's much cheaper made, so it's lacking a few features like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and most importantly, the magnets that sense if the hinge is closed or not. So you don't have the lovely thing where you can just, wake the device up by opening it and put it to sleep by closing it. So yeah, still, the 35XX SP survived yet another attack, battered and bruised, but still alive. And what killed it? Its fucking younger brother. Because the 34XX SP came out, and I know the naming scheme might be a little bit confusing because it's the newer and better model, but it's the 3.4 instead of the 3.5. It just refers to the screen size. That's how Anbernic name things. Basically, this one has a 3.4-inch screen, which is a little bit smaller, but just look at this screen. It's so lovely. And the 3.4XX SP has fixed pretty much all of my issues with the 3.5XX SP. Now, it's much smaller, so this thing is actually pocketable. Like, I don't really carry consoles in my pocket often, but with this one, like, I don't mind. I can carry it in my pocket all day, and I don't mind. It's like probably the second most pocketable console I own after the TrimUI Brick. It's much smaller. The screen, as we've already mentioned, is much nicer. And the buttons, do you know what? Like, again, I'm a clicky button hater. And I still prefer membrane buttons over it. But these are the best clicky buttons I have tested that weren't made by Nintendo. Because Nintendo makes lovely clicky buttons. Like, you've got the DSi right there. That's got, like, probably the best clicky buttons I've ever tested. But the 3.4XX is honestly not that far behind. Those are some really lovely buttons. And it also has analog sticks, which, yeah, it makes it look a little bit goofy. I would honestly prefer if they weren't here. But still, like, it fixes all of my issues with the 3.5XX. So this thing is dead, yeah? Well, there is the whole thing about the 3.4XX having a 3x2 display instead of a 4x3 display, which some people just want to play, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega, Nintendo 64, PlayStation 1 games on those. And yeah, for those devices, the display on the 3.4XX SP is smaller. You get a 3.1-inch display effectively instead of a 3.5-inch one. It is a difference that's definitely noticeable in person, but honestly, with how much nicer the screen is, I definitely would prefer playing those systems on the 3.4XX SP, not to mention having analog sticks for PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64. And yeah, like, honestly, I think that people just complain way too much about the screen aspect ratio on the 3.4, because The TrimUI Brick is beloved by the community, and it has a 3.2 inch 4x3 display. So it's like barely bigger than the one on the 34XX Like, if I don't put them side by side, I would honestly probably think that the 3.4 has a bigger display. But yeah, I mean, it does, but you know, not for 4x3 content. But yeah, like, this is the only reason why people would still maybe choose the 3.5. But honestly, as much as I loved it back in the day, I just see no selling point for the 3.5 anymore. Like, if you want a clamshell, just get the 3.4. If you want a 4x3 display and you want the device to be pocketable, just get the Brick. It's arguably even better built than the 3.5XX SP. And yeah, it's not a clamshell, so the screen isn't protected. But you know what? You can just get a tempered glass screen protector for like €2 on AliExpress. I definitely consider this to be the better, like, everyday carry pocketable console, because I can actually carry it in my pocket for an entire day. So yeah, like, the Brick just really kills the Pocketability argument. And if you want a handheld that's nice and comfortable to play on, and you don't much care about it being pocketable, just get the 40XX-V. Now, this thing, I will be reviewing it soon, but judging by the fact that my girlfriend stole it from me, it's really good. Like, it's got a lovely 4-inch display, which is much bigger. It's much more ergonomic than the 3.5XX SP. The buttons are just lovely. They are membrane, squishy, soft buttons. They feel great. It has an analog stick. There's just everything about the 40XX-V is better, except for the fact that it doesn't close. It plays all the same games, but it just doesn't close, right? But honestly, I would take it any day. Okay, so conclusion time. As you might have already noticed, I don't really recommend buying the 3.5XX SP in 2025. It was a lovely little proof of concept when it released, and I am grateful to I am grateful to Anbernic for making it and paving the way for all of the lovely clamshell consoles that we're getting right now. But yeah, it definitely shows its age by now. Like, it's still lovely, it still performs great, it still feels amazing and looks amazing. But honestly, yeah, if you're buying it as a collector, or you just had a ton of nostalgia for the GameBoy Advance SP, and the 3.4 just doesn't scratch that same nostalgic itch, I guess that's the reason to buy the 3.5XX SP. But yeah, as I've said, if you want something that's just nice and pocketable, just get the Brick. If you want a clamshell, just get the 3.4. If you don't care about pocketability so much, you just want something that's a bit larger than those two and has a lovely screen and nice ergonomics, get the 40XX-V. There's just so few reasons I can see to even possibly recommend this one. Like, honestly, if I for some reason didn't want all of those, I would probably just choose the Miyoo A30, because yeah, it's just a lovely little guy that is tiny. It has a 2.8 inch 3x2 4x3 display, but it can play like Nintendo 64 games way better than the 3.5 can. So yeah, like, there's just so much competition that it's hard for me to recommend it. But okay, if for some reason you don't want the 3.4 because it looks ugly, and you don't want the Brick because it just, I don't know why you wouldn't want the Brick. It's fantastic, but okay. You don't want the Brick because, I don't know, it's not a clamshell, and you don't want the 40XX-V because it's too big or something. Would I recommend the 3.5XX SP then? Probably still not. As I said, I've got the Miyoo Flip V2 on the way, and I will review that quite soon. Well, in about a month's time, right? Because I need some time to actually live with the device if I want to do a proper vibe check instead of a first impression video. And then I'll try to get my hands on the Powkiddy V90. But yeah, I just can't see myself recommending the 35XX SP in 2025. If you already have it, it's great. It's still a good console, right? I'm just making this video for the people who are considering buying one. And just don't fall for the hype. Yeah, I know a lot of people have theirs and they love them, but there's just so many better ways to spend your money nowadays. So for that reason alone, I just can't say I recommend it too much. I'm still going to keep mine. In fact, I'm going to give it to my little sister because I think, like, for her, the fact that a bigger clamshell is quite alright because, well, she is quite clumsy, that little one. She is 9 years old. She actually just turned 9 this Thursday, so this will be her birthday gift. And I think, like, the fact that it's not pocketable won't bother her because none of them would be pocketable for her. And at least she can toss it into her backpack and just have something to play games on. And you know, for that reason, for something that you want to give to a kid, it's still lovely, right? Like, if I had the money right now to buy her something new, I would probably just buy her the 3-4. But I don't, so hey, she'll get a nice gift and I'm sure she'll be happy anyway. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope I helped you make a decision, right? I hope I didn't offend you if you already have the SP and like it. It's still a good console. I just don't think anyone should buy it in 2025. All right. So that's it. Thanks so much and fuck off.